let's just set some context, right? We are talking about this in the context of your professional success.
Correct.
We are not marriage counseling here.
No.
We are not talking about how
Nor
you should
should you
have
allow us
conversations in your house or what
Or
you
you
should
should.
do. In the role of your significant other and their success, what role do you play?
But you
And you
have
hit
to.
a banger of a word there, which is supportive.
I think picking the right partner, especially when you're growing a business, is very significant. So the role they play, when we're talking about specifically what just transpired, where it became her interview, not his interview.
For anybody who hasn't seen the moment, Bill Belichick was on a CBS interview for their Sunday morning show, and she immediately, and after a question about being asked about how they met,
Not talking about this.
we, number one, we're not going to answer that.
Well,
Is an interesting way to insert
know.
yourself into the conversation.
So the reports are that they lost their HBO deal because of her. I think so. That's what part of the
There's fallout. Ooh. Ooh.
The article I read was HBO came in and said, "Hey, we want to do this series. The NFL, it's not really working out." She asked for creative control, I think, or something absurd, where even HBO was like, I don't really understand. And then today or yesterday, there was another announcement that he might bring in a PR firm to handle what is going on. Now, look, following this situation, if you know anything about Bill Belichick, he was a legendary coach for the Patriots, a very quiet man, a man who never said much at the podium.
Ever.
Now is in a position where he maybe does need to say something, right? And maybe does need to set the record straight. But I think it's interesting because the problem in this one is obvious. Well, I don't want to say problem because the interesting topic of discussion is they are 50 years apart in age. He is 74.
What qualifies her
He is
to even
24.
have an opinion
And Bay,
on this shit,
this is
man?
now the next to set up the conversation
on,
is what is her role in the organization and why does she deserve one?
So I'm going to play devil's advocate just for a second because you asked a good question. What qualifies her to even have a say in any of this as a partnership, right? Like, if you're being asked about your relationship, that's not just about Bill and his career in football. This is about you. So I think you do have some kind of say in what your your partner says out loud.
Take my lead.
Okay.
Like, he should have answered it. And so let me back up for a second.
Yeah.
So we talk about preparation all the time.
1000%.
What did they just land in the seat and not have any fucking idea what was going to happen? Show up and throw up. There it is again. You get what you deserve. You can't just sit down. You have to have some idea.
Be prepared.
Where the interview is going, what the tone of the invitation of the interview is going to be, what's off limits.
It's funny. Look,
I could have said, "Hey, we don't want to talk about anything, personal," and then it stays off limits. No control.
I don't care if you're a CEO. I don't care if you're a head coach. Everyone knows when like the head honcho's wife walks in or the head honcho's husband walks in, like that's an important figure.
Right? Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's like all high alert.
Miss Terry.
Right. Like especially
huge.
in football, you called them Miss whatever their name was. There was a level of etiquette. They were the team mom.
There was respect. There was respect. There was a lot of respect.
I was part of a really, really unique situation. Megan Mullen, Dan Mullen was the guy I worked for at Florida. Megan used to stand out in front of Gator Walk and we would walk in for the games and she used to kiss everybody.
Woo!
Yeah.
We watched
and she is legitimately standing on ESPN kissing everybody. And I remember like everybody in the locker room was kind of like, ooh, like not like because we thought it was wrong. It was she was now the focus of the attention, not our players anymore. Had nothing to do with her love for them. But I was like, why did you choose this
Your
moment?
point. Yep. The point that you make, which is a really good one, is where does Bill Belichick's girlfriend step into the same circle?
So what appears to be missing there is trust. right? Because she didn't trust that Bill was going to be able to answer that correctly.
Okay.
She didn't trust that Bill would take care of her in his response.
Or it was her wanting to be on the spotlight.
And this goes for
either way.
Well, this goes for men and women, because I think we just saw Kamala Harris ran, the most powerful woman in the world ran with a man who we didn't hear from at all, really, her husband. So I don't want this to be sex.
Nobody even knows that who he is.
You know what I mean? No. Like, I don't want this to be.
No, that's why I said role of significant
other. This has nothing to do with whether you're the wife in that role, or it doesn't matter who you are. Where do you put your ego in that relationship? Because I think you got to swallow the line. You two are married, so you guys can speak about it a little bit differently because I'm single, but I know watching that makes me feel uncomfortable. Like that feeling of who am I trying to please?
To answer the question very specifically, what role do you have in the success of your spouse or your significant other is support, encouragement, and challenge. Period. You should live in those three places with each other.
Can you break down the third one a little bit more?
You need to, I believe that you should be responsible for pushing that person further and making sure that they don't stay complacent.